Joining me live now here in Canberra is Senator for the ACT, David Pocock. David, great to see you. You're here in Canberra. Of course, you're from Canberra. I'm here. Let's talk about, go back to first principles. What do you actually want to achieve? Why are you in this place now? And what do you want to do with your Senate term?
Like so many people, I was really frustrated with politics, and the way I see it is you can get cynical and check out, or you can say, well, I can actually try and be part of changing things. And so put my hand to run as an independent here in the ACT, and yeah, the messages clearly resonated. People want to see politics done better. They want to see better representation, more accountability from politicians, and that's my promise to people of the ACT. Each piece of legislation, I'll say, how is this going to affect the people of the ACT, and how does this square with the kind of future that we want here in Australia?
Yeah, so how do you, when you're looking at individual legislation, how are you approaching this? Are you approaching it in a way where you recognise that Labor have a mandate, or are you more worried about your own mandate?
Yeah, that's the great thing about politics is everyone in here has a mandate from the people who elected them. And so you mix all those mandates together and have some really good negotiation, and I think we'll get really good outcomes for Australians.
Are you worried though that by needing to, with everyone having an individual mandate, that could be a recipe for chaos and actually not improve the politics which you've been so frustrated about? I mean, how do you deal with this as an individual? Do you have red lines? Will you need to be collaborative with the opposition, the Greens and Labor?
I mean, a lot was made in the run-up to the election about the dangers of having independents in here. But if you look elsewhere in the world, it actually leads to really good outcomes. There has to be debate, negotiation, you hear different voices, and you've got people in there who don't have to toe a party line and can actually say what the people that they represent are telling them. And that's my commitment. I'm going to be constructive. We want to see things get done, and as the government have said, there's a huge legislative agenda. So that means I've got to be across things and then consulting with people here in the ACT. And as you appreciate, there are many, many experts here in Canberra, so that's an advantage. And then,
is it?
And then hopefully
many experts in Canberra, is that an advantage?
For me, it certainly is.
Yeah.
I'm going to be listening to people in the community, listening to people who have spent their lives working on these big problems and issues that we face, and helping craft that into good outcomes for all of us.
Well, the reduction in emissions by 2030, that Labor wants that in legislation. The Greens want to go further. Looks like the coalition isn't budging. Where do you sit on this?
I'll be very honest saying I think we need more ambition than that. The expectation from the community, though, is that we need to legislate something. So for me, it's about the integrity of that target. Get something in place, have some certainty for business, for people who want to invest in renewables, and get this transition to renewables happening, and ensure that we're actually focusing on the integrity of the whole system and the way that we're doing it when it comes to carbon offsets, and ensuring that communities who've been employed in fossil fuels for generations are looked after. We have to be investing in those regions.
Yeah, right.
And then focusing on the household level. How do we actually unlock savings from electrification as we move to households, having batteries, heat pumps, electric vehicles? Rooftop solar is an amazing Australian success story, started under the Howard government. We have to continue that sort of innovation and schemes and legislation for all these other technologies.
So when it comes to the legislation, and the Greens are concerned that the way it's written in legislation is that 43% would be a cap, so you can't, be more ambitious. Is that the way you read it?
My understanding is Mr. Bowen is very open and wants to make it a floor.
Okay.
Clearly, we're seeing the impacts of climate change around us. The economics of climate action are shifting so fast. We need to be able to increase that ambition, and should, coming out of the next COP, there be a raised level ambition, we have to make sure that our local laws don't override that commitment.
Okay. At the moment as well, I think people are getting a bit of bill shock. Gas prices are up. We've seen the instability in the grid and the East Coast market. How concerned are you about that? And how does that interact with your thinking on ambition on climate change?
With the independents running at the election, a lot was made around integrity and climate. For me, one of the biggest things I was hearing was housing affordability and cost of living. These are huge challenges, and we need to both look at the long-term solutions and how we approach housing in Australia. Great to see the government commit to a national housing strategy. But in the short term, what are we doing to actually help households? Interest rates going up, and we're seeing extreme weather events actually increase the prices of everyday items at the supermarket.
So you've got a pretty powerful voice in the room when you're speaking to Labor. Cost of living, front of mind for you, that's good to know. So what about things like the fuel excise? Would you talk to Labor? Do you think that should be extended beyond September?
This is a really tough one because you're looking at a commitment from the previous government up against the debt that everyone's talking about, and getting that balance right. I'm not sure what the answer is there, to be honest. I'll be consulting widely over the next few weeks, but really those sorts of decisions, one, have to come from the lower house. But certainly I think there needs to be some debate around it.
Well, David, that is refreshing, because not often in this place you hear someone say, I'm not sure, or I don't know. And it's good to hear sometimes.
Well, I mean, as an independent, my commitment is to be honest to people. If I don't know something, I'll say I don't know, and I can actually then go and learn about it. I think it's ridiculous to expect politicians to be across absolutely everything and to have to come up with some answer that doesn't answer the question.
Yeah.
So
to
hopefully
be
we'll
seen
keep
to
that.
be doing things rather than doing.
Hopefully I can keep that going.
Amen, David. Thanks so much for your time. We'll be speaking regularly.
Great. Thanks for having me.